Henry, good morning. Okay. I'm just going to give you all of the questions about anything. Just ask Henry. Be ready.
Where we can commiserate past needs in class.
I can tell she's going 100%.
So, are we allowed to do that?
Well,
Can we get a card for my man? to fill out?
a card?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'll get it.
You gotta sit with your rear guard.
All right, we'll take about 1 more minute for folks to jump on the WebEx. I think we have folks here still doing the dual. So Pat, are we still waiting for folks, I think?
Oh, let me check this one moment. Only TP. You're not in it. Beautiful.
How are you?
Hi, everyone. We'll get started. We'll convene the joint meeting of Valley Metro, RPTA, and Valley Metro Rail. I'll call on Pat to do the roll.
One, Vice Mayor Veronica Malone, City of Avondale. Councilmember Clay Goodman, City of Buckeye. City of Chandler, Mayor Kevin Hartke.
Here.
City of El Mirage, Vice Mayor Monica Dorsey. Town of Fountain Hills, Councilmember Mike Charnow. Town of Gilbert, Mayor Bridget Peterson.
Here.
City of Glendale, Councilmember Lauren Tolmatoff.
Here.
City of Goodyear, Councilmember Bill Stipp.
Present.
Maricopa County Supervisor Jack Sellers.
Here.
City of Mesa, Councilmember Francisco Heredia.
Here.
City of Peoria, Councilmember John Edwards. City of Phoenix, Vice Mayor Laura Pastor.
Here.
Town of Queen Creek, Councilmember Leah Martineau.
Here.
City of Scottsdale, Councilmember Betty Janik.
Here.
City of Surprise, Councilmember Chris Judd.
Here.
City of Tempe, Councilmember Robin Arredondo Savage.
Here, ma'am.
Thank you, ma'am. City of Tolleson, Councilmember Adolfo Gomez. Town of Wickenburg, Mayor Rui Pereira. And Town of Youngtown, Mayor Michael LaVault.
That's Pat, I'm here.
Perfect. Well, thank you, everybody. Quick programming note, we do have a slight modification to the order of the meeting. As we all know, we have an executive session scheduled on today's joint meeting agenda. And for efficiency's sake, before we get to agenda item 8, which is the executive session, I'm going to call for a recess of the joint board meeting. During that recess, I will call the RPTA meeting to order and proceed with the RPTA agenda. Once concluded, I will call the VMR meeting to order and proceed with the VMR agenda. Upon the conclusion of those separate board meetings, I will end the recess and reconvene the joint board to proceed with agenda item 8, and will then ask for a motion to enter in e-session. We consulted with the general counsel and we're good to proceed with this change. This change allows us to get through our lengthy agendas, including the discussion and adoption of the fiscal year 2023 budgets, while allowing for sufficient time for our executive session. I'm asking RPTA members to remain in the room and or on WebEx during the VMR meeting so we can quickly end the recess and transition back into the joint meeting and go to an e-session. So any questions or comments here? Just trying to, for efficiency's sake, to end our normal agendas and then go into e-session at the end of our meetings. So once we get that back into that piece, we'll appropriately do those things there. So again, because we're doing in-person and WebEx meetings, just as always, keep your mic on mute if you're online. If you do have a question, there's a function there as far as raising your hand, and we'll call on you then. So we'll get started with our agenda. First item, public comments. Public is provided with the opportunity at this time to address the committee. So I'll ask folks have 3 minutes to talk about non-agenda items and all agenda items as well. So Pat, do we have, okay.
Mr. Marcus Schmidt.
Mr. Schmidt?
Right here?
Yes.
Okay. Good morning.
Good morning.
Morning.
My name is Marcus Schmidt. I'm in the city of Phoenix, and I'm speaking on behalf of the National Federation of the Blind, of which I am its state transit committee chairperson. It's been several years since I've had the opportunity to stand before you in person, but I have been monitoring what's been going on via the WebEx sessions, and I appreciate covering that. There's a few issues I want to address here in the limited time that I have, so I will be brief. The first issue is related to the proposed fixed route service changes late October. I reviewed those and was really surprised to find there were just as many service reductions as there were service increases. I've been hearing about the funds that are coming in, first with the COVID related transportation funds, and then with the investment infrastructure bill. And I'm very surprised that we aren't seeing significant service increases planned because of those funding. Also was surprised to see that the 25% service reductions that have been in effect due to COVID are expected to remain in effect when most businesses are vamping up their in-person employees, and people are traveling more and more to and from their job sites, and people are frequenting restaurants and needing those public transportation services. The other main issue is dollar ride service. For those people who cannot effectively or safely use public transportation, we must not leave them behind. And the number of riders is very short right now. And I hope that we can see funds allocated to paratransit, not just public transit and streets and roads, to make sure that the service level is increased to take care of our most vulnerable riders in our community. Ride times are excessive during peak times, and I am hearing firsthand of many riders who are being stranded, often in dangerous places late at night, and now we have the heat upon us. So it could be very dangerous from a health standpoint. That won't be fixed until we're willing to get more drivers in. And then I would like you to consider increasing pay and being more aggressive in attracting more drivers so that we can take care of this. And concerning dollar ride, we still are having a problem with serving our people in the outskirts of the valley because of the prohibition of serving outside of the 3/4 mile zone of buses. Well, if we're not expanding our bus system, but the valley is growing, we're leaving those people completely unserved. And that is discriminatory and, in my opinion, against the American with Disabilities Act, even though it's not specifically listed as a requirement. Let's be good citizens. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Schmidt.
We have Mr. Marvin Lofton.
We have a comment here real quick.
Can I have staff follow up with him? Thank you.
We're
Lofton?
now.
Yes, good morning. Excuse my voice this morning. My sinus just decided a couple of days ago that I'm still breathing not pure air. I started coming to your board meetings in regards to the no-shows. And it's still happening, of course. And with my contact, Mr. Gutierrez, I understand all the procedures and ramifications of what you're trying to do to correct the problem. This morning, I want to address one part in particular. May 29th, Sunday, there were two no-shows, one after the other. My part-time job, I have to be at work at 8 o'clock, and I do work weekends. And that particular day, when two buses did not show up, I was late for work. I've been vetted with Chrysler in Indianapolis. I've been vetted with Cox Communications here. I've had 3 years in the military, and not one time have I ever been late for a job, doing anything. And quite naturally, I was upset. I work at Target in Desert Ridge, and I get paid $15 an hour. I would like to request, and I know request or approved or denied, that whoever handles petty cash can write me a check for $7.50. And I'll accept donations today up to $7.50 to rectify that concern. I would like to get a response during or after this meeting. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Lofton.
Mr. Crowley?
Good morning, Board. I'll cut right to the quick. I've been talking to Goodyear, and they informed me that supposedly the Prop 400 legislation says that you guys can't fund the circulators. That's not how we wrote it. And it's also part of what I'm looking at is that on your agenda today on 4H and I, on your dual meeting, you're going to get some lobbyists. Hey, what are their marching orders? What are you guys telling these people? This is what we need to do and get. And the one with the state, if Goodyear is unable to get a circulator using Valley Metro funds, we need to petition the legislature to change that, because that's not how I wrote it. It was on the outskirts communities, circulators with a connector to the major system. In fact, it was supposed to be that way for Wickenburg until the state said, well, we can't fund it. And according to you guys, you said, well, there's not enough ridership. I also note that you're going to be going to the feds, the ones that really burned you last year. What are their marching orders? What are you asking them to lobby for? What are the projects and potential that you need to get done and addressed? Because all I see is that you've been giving both of these people blank checks. And on one, not only was it a blank check, they came back and said, hey, you need to give us 10 times as much. Last month, one of the things you passed had that planning part in it. And like I said, where's the part that's going for the bus on these? But also that one of the things that they said you're having those people do is lobby. So I'm glad that Rail's got all that lobbying out there and it's not getting it done. You're saying that you need to get your ridership back. Well, one of the reasons people aren't using it is it's not a timely system. A lot of the routes are 20 minutes, double the size of your fleet, double the amount of time that people can use to use the bus, bringing it down to 10 minutes. And you know what? They'll get ridership. It's been that way throughout the system here. If you put the bus there, people will use it. Why? Because you've been a desert and deficient all along. So I'd really like to know what the marching orders are for the lobbyists you're getting for the state and for the feds. And if you don't, see discrepancies, as in we can't get these things done to make it a more unified system, get the legislature to pass legislation. You can lobby them, you know that?
Thank you, Blue. Pat, do we have anybody else?
That's it.
Perfect.
Could staff, I'm sorry, Chair.
Yeah, go ahead.
Could staff meet with each one of them? Thank you.
Item number 2, call on Chief Executive Officer's report. Call on Jessica Medford-Miller.
Good morning, board members, members of the public, and staff. I've got a number of items I will update you on briefly this morning. First, it is my pleasure to introduce our special guest today, Ms. Jocelyn Hernandez. Ms. Hernandez recently won the Valley Metro Public Art Contest for our Wrap a Transit vehicle. Ms. Hernandez recently graduated from Mountain View High School in Mesa. We had the opportunity to visit with Jocelyn and see the unveiling of her art, which is called Greet the Day the Valley Metro Way on May 10th at Mountain View High School, along with the district leadership, her principal, and her classmates. I have also had the pleasure of riding the train that is wrapped, Jocelyn, with your artwork, and it is just gorgeous. So thank you. Congratulate you on your achievement with this award and also your recent graduation. Jocelyn is here with her mom, Irene, and her sisters, Jenna. Martha. Jocelyn, would you like to take a photo and sign the board celebrating your artwork? Chair Reddy, would you like to join us? This is the 22nd year of the Design a Transit Wrap contest. We also have art contests for students who are in the 3rd grade, and it's just a great outreach opportunity between Valley Metro and our local public schools. Oh, yep. All right, next two.
One more second.
Oh, okay. Oh, it's gorgeous. Yeah. Yeah. Yes.
So this picture will hang upstairs in our office, and this picture will stay down here.
Oh, okay.
Thank you.
She's gonna have her mother come up.
Oh, absolutely. Come on in here. Why don't you hold this second? You want to hold the art? Let's do that. Thank you.
This one's first? Yeah. Oh, Kristen, this one's first. This one's first. Oh, okay.
Can you advance the slides too? Okay, so May was a month full of celebrations in addition to Jocelyn's artwork on May 20th. Together with the city of Tempe, our partners at the Federal Transit Administration, and leadership from across the region, including several of our board members, we celebrated the opening of the streetcar in Tempe. We also were joined by Region 9 Federal Transit Administrator Ray Tellis. Region 9 of FTA has been of particular importance at helping us to accomplish all of our capital programs, including the streetcar. So we had a ribbon cutting, and after that, we opened the streetcar for passenger service. And passenger service is free to customers throughout the first year. We're off to a good, strong start. Not yet a month into the streetcar. We're actually carrying more customers per mile on streetcar than any of our other services, including light rail and the very popular Dash service. So we're off to a strong start, and the public has just been super excited. We've had staff out on the street helping customers ride and get them acclimated to the system. We have 5 Brookville streetcars that are operating today, and we'll expect to receive our 6th car later this summer. Next slide, please. I am very proud to introduce to you the Valley Metro Quality of Life Study. This is an update to a study that we last addressed several years ago. And the purpose of the Quality of Life Study, which is accessible at valleymetro.life, this really makes a public debut, and it's a collaborative work that came from our planning, communications, IT, and marketing groups. And the intention is to really demonstrate the importance and the connectedness of transit to communities across the valley. We demonstrate the connectedness and value focused around 4 key pillars, including responding to the valley's needs, improving communities through transit, prioritizing riders, and benefiting the valley. The expected outcomes of this important work is an increased understanding of the role of transit and the investments not only of the transit system, but also the development and economic activity that's occurring around transit. And the data is actually compiled with a host of regional partners, including MAG, the state of Arizona, and our local communities. It's also available in mobile form, so it's really easy to access on the go and a mobile platform. Next slide, please. So I want to provide you with a brief update on ridership from the month of May. We're more or less continuing on the trends we've talked about in recent months. A bus service is recovering, albeit at a slower rate than our light rail service. We are seeing about 4% year-over-year growth relative to last year. We're again hopeful that we'll pick up a little bit in the fall. Our express ridership growth continues to lag. I do expect that the pain that consumers are feeling at the pump is going to help boost express ridership. There's a lot to be saved on some of those longer commute trips within the region, but we're reminded that people aren't continuing to make all of the trips they did before, especially that journey to work. And so Valley Metro, like transit systems across the country, is continuing to experience a little bit of diminished ridership. If we compare where we're at today relative to where we were before the pandemic, we are down about 38% on light rail, and we are down about 47% on bus. We'll continue to provide this and other performance metrics to you every month. Next slide, please. So today is a day of lots of celebrations here at the Valley Metro board meeting. This being, so get your cameras back out. So this being our last meeting of the fiscal year, I want to give special recognition to a couple of board members whose role is changing. Councilmember Arredondo Savage, we are so honored that you have served on this board and you have been a strong contributor, provided excellent vision and leadership to us since 2017. Your passion, dedication, and commitment are noticeable, and it has made a demonstrable impact on transit service, not just in the city of Tempe, but across the valley. You have served on AFS for 2 terms, and that's no small commitment, but you've also participated in other committees, including the Ad Hoc Recruitment Committee for CEO. So we enjoyed spending time together before I joined the team. There is no doubt that you have made us better. You've kept us on time. You've kept us within budget, and you have challenged this board and this organization in ways that are very positive and productive. We thank you for your service, and I want to call out just a few of the bigger contributions that I think that you've made on the board. During this time, we have helped with the Driving for Books program, our summer youth partnership with First Transit, our many clean air championships, and I look forward to hopeful more contributions toward clean air in the valley, progress on light rail and streetcar construction. I'm so glad that you got to be with us in your role as a board member through the opening of the streetcar last month, and initiatives including youth education, workforce development, and green technologies. And we'll see more of those to come for sure. And of course, from the first roundabout to the opening, you have really been with us during that contract term through the design, the construction, and now the operation of streetcar service. Councilmember Arredondo Savage, thank you for your leadership these past 5 years. And more photos.
Yes.
So we have for Councilmember Arredondo Savage art created by Paige Reeser of appropriately the Tempe streetcar.
That's awesome. That's great. Tempe resident, by the way.
Could be resident.
Yeah, right on. Okay, cool. I'm not gonna stand up on the stage. I feel like we should be.
Anybody else want to be part of it? Come on up.
Just bring everybody.
Come on. Peer pressure. Nobody seems like I should be able to peer pressure you at least once. One, okay, maybe twice. I think you should do it all the time.
Please stand behind her.
We're
taking classes there.
I'm all in. Thank you, thank you. Thanks, thank you.
Well, I can do bunny ears from here.
Yeah, thank you, thank you. Don't go anywhere.
Yeah,
Yes, I really appreciate it.
yep.
We're celebrating the tree.
You know what, while we're all here, can we advance another slide? I also want to recognize our chairs, plural, Chair Francisco Heredia, who has been the chair this past year, not only of Valley Metro RPTA, but also of Valley Metro Rail. Chair Heredia, it's been a monumental task providing this leadership over what has been no doubt a challenging year and a challenging time for Valley Metro and transit across the country. We appreciate your steady hand and your leadership. You spearheaded a number of things, including the search for CEO. So thank you for that, especially. But you've been dedicated, yeah, especially you've been dedicated to the community, to this board and to the staff, and we appreciate your leadership. We look forward to your continued involvement in the board. So thank you, Chair Heredia.
The long neck.
Oh, there we go. Can everybody do bunny ears?
Thank you.
Sounds good.
Thanks. I'm sure my bunny ears look the best. Thank you.
There you go.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Oh, sorry.
Yeah, I just wanted to-
I wanted to make
I
triple
don't-
sure.
Don't want them to be ignored.
Absolutely. Okay, just one more item, a quick look ahead to what's going on. So in the month of July, we do have a board recess, as we usually do. During that time, we're going to be preparing for some of the special meetings and sessions that have been requested by this board, including study sessions on ride choice, zero emissions vehicles, and strategic planning, which I hope to bring to you in the month of August. So right at the beginning of fiscal year 2023, we'll dive right in to those specific topics. And without further ado, I think that is the last update from me this morning. Ready to dive in. Back to you, Chair Heredia.
Yeah, we can have just some brief comments.
I just wanted to make some brief comments off of the agenda or reporting out. I would like to thank my colleagues, Robin O'Donnell Savage, for her leadership as a newbie. I kind of jumped in the whole space, and with her guidance, she also helped me relax and be able to give me the self-confidence to be able to manage through the whole process. And Council Member Francisco Heredia, as I sat next to you, all of a sudden I was vice chair, really kind of didn't understand what was going on, but then figured out quickly. And I want to thank you for your patience and understanding and all the text messages and questions that I had. So I really want to thank our colleagues for their leadership and what they do for our community.
Appreciate it. Thank you. Thank you for those kind words. We'll get going with the agenda. Item number 3, Audit and Finance Subcommittee update, and call on Councilmember Stitt.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I will definitely be brief. While we had a long meeting
It was mostly focused on the operating and capital budgets. Going forward, we did receive an update on the 5-year operating forecast and the capital improvement program. We deferred some of our internal audit briefings until our next meeting in August because of the length of the budget process that we've all have experienced. We had a short review of the intergovernmental agreements, which we are seeing today on our agenda. And of course, we brought the budget discussion to a conclusion. While we celebrated Councilmember Arredondo Savage's departure, we also wanted to acknowledge Jim Hilliard in his final meeting. I'm sorry that we dragged this out until June for you, Jim, but Jim has been the acting CFO for the past year now and has worked very closely with us. And we, again, want to acknowledge his participation and his collaboration with us. And with that, that ends my report pending questions.
Any questions, comments? All right. Hearing none, we'll move forward with item number 4, consent agenda. Consent agenda is presented for action. I'll ask any other committee members, board members, have any questions or comments that they want to have on the consent agenda.
Chair, this is Councilwoman Martineau. Is that okay if I have a moment?
Yeah, go ahead.
Yes, I just didn't know, I had a few of the items I'd like to pull. I didn't know if this would be the appropriate place to do so, or if you're still doing discussion.
Discussion, but you can call to pull any of the items there.
All right, I'll just go and do that now. I'm gonna ask if I could pull, excuse me, for, I get my notes, make sure I get them right, for F, 4G, and 4H. And I can explain briefly if you'd like that now, or I could wait till the vote, whatever works for you.
Yeah, let's, so we're pulling for F, G, and H. We'll save your comments to those items, but I'll call upon a motion for the rest of the items on the consent agenda, and then we can go into those.
Mr. Chair, I move approval of the consent agenda excluding items 4F, 4G, and 4H.
Second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any nays?
Aye.
I'm over here now, I can't see, so who's
Councilman,
Make the motion.
First, second.
Councilman Tomachoff and Vice Mayor Pastor second. Motion passes. Now we'll get into the first item, 4F. Councilmember Martineau.
Yes, thank you. Yeah, I just, on this one, I'm going to vote no. I just haven't seen any tangible studies from this. I did ask to see the previous study done. And until I can dive a little deeper and really understand what the study will be doing, I will be voting no at this time.
Okay. Any other discussion, comments? We'll take a motion and a second to.
Would it be helpful, Mr. Chair, if I give a brief overview of what that is? So item number 4F pertains to the conduct of what's called an origin destination study. This is a type of tool that is used in transportation demand modeling for both transit as well as other modes. So this is talking with people. It involves typically intercept interviews, collecting detailed information about where you're going, how you're getting there. This data would be leveraged by Valley Metro and Maricopa Association of Governments. It's typically conducted in metropolitan regions at a frequency between 3 and 10 years. For Valley Metro, This helps us understand where people are going, how they're getting there, when they're traveling, and helps inform the design of our system, including route and stop placement and service frequency. We are keenly interested in obtaining this data as quickly as possible because, as we all know, travel demand has changed tremendously in the last couple of years, and we need to ensure that our services are oriented in such a way to facilitate where and when people want to travel.
Perfect. Just when was the last, was it 2019, I think?
I believe it was 2019, Mr. Chair. Mhm.
All right, any other questions, comments? Hearing none, I'll take a motion in a second on this item.
Mr. Chair, I'll make the motion.
I'll second.
Second by Councilwoman Arredondo Savage. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any nays?
Nay.
Any abstain? Ayes have it. We'll move on to item number
G,
4G. Council member?
Thank you. And I can just speak to both of the next two for F and G at the same time. I just philosophically don't approve of using taxpayer dollars to pay for lobbyists. And so therefore I will be no as well on both of these.
Okay. Any comments from staff?
So the purpose of both of these contracts, 4G being at the federal level and then 4H at the state level here in Arizona, those lobbying services in which Mr. Crowley also referenced in his public comment are used to assist Valley Metro in availing ourselves most frequently of federal programs, which have helped support things like the Tempe streetcar, our ongoing construction of our South Central extension and downtown hub, our Northwest extension. Phase 2 will soon be applying to the Federal Transit Administration for authorization to enter project development for our Cap West light rail extension. Other programs that would benefit our bus system include our applications to the Federal Transit Administration's bus and bus facilities, and we are currently gearing up to prepare an application to the Federal Transit Administration's low or no emissions vehicles program in January 2023. And so this lobbying support helps ensure that we are aligned with our program applications, and it also helps assemble our congressional delegation so that we can ensure success. We have been incredibly successful with the capital investment grant program in particular, administered by the Federal Transit Administration. To accomplish that, we have been working closely with Cardinal Infrastructure, who's our federal lobbyist. At the state level, on item 4H, we have also been participating in lobbying within the state of Arizona. It's an especially critical time. As you're all aware, we're working to support MAG and the state legislature in the pursuit of enabling legislation for the renewal of Proposition 400, which is, of course, the primary funding source for all Valley Metro transit operations and a great many other transportation programs across the valley. If you have specific questions on those contracts, I'm going to ask Alexis Tamarone-Kinsey to answer any of those.
Any comments?
Specific questions?
Vice Mayor?
No, I was going to make a motion.
Can we make the motion or just keep it clean, each one?
I was
Or
going to.
can we add both?
Let's do a motion on each item.
on
Each one?
item? Okay.
Okay.
Any other questions? Sorry. All right, on item 4G, I ask for a motion and a second.
I'd like to make a motion for 4G.
Second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any nays?
Nay.
Anyone abstain?
On the next one.
All right, motion passes. Same thing with item 4H. I request a motion and a second.
I move approval of item 4H on the consent agenda.
Second. Go ahead.
Would like to do something at this end of the table.
Okay.
Councilmember Stipp, if you
Yeah.
have comments?
Just a quick comment.
Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, thank you, Chair. I just want to say thank you to Jessica for your explanation in regards to the lobbyists. I know doing, as involved as we were with the streetcar, how important it was to be able to get those extra revenues from the federal government. So for me, I understand individuals' philosophies, but at the same time, I really do believe that having these consultants be able to advocate on our behalf and seek and look for funding opportunities is definitely a beneficial thing. So I will be supporting this tonight, but I just want to say thank you.
All right,
Chair, can I verify, Councilmember Martineau is the only no?
yes.
Okay, thank you.
And so do we have a motion and a second? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Ayes?
Nay.
Any abstain? No one, motion passes. Thank you. And I think that concludes our consent agenda. We'll move on to item number 5, fiscal year 2023 Valley Metro RPTA and Valley Metro Rail proposed operating capital budget. So Jessica to provide an update there.
Okay. Good morning again, directors. This is hopefully our last round with our review of our budget for the fiscal year, operations and maintenance budget and capital budget for fiscal year 2023. We have received a tremendous amount of input and feedback from our member cities, from this board, and from the AFS in particular as well, that has helped shape the budget moving forward. In response, we have taken a number of strategies. We've reduced some of those budgetary requests by eliminating or adjusting the scale of programs, by including revenue from savings to support the operations cost of some of our line items. Perhaps most importantly, I want to call special attention to a little bit of a shift in an inclusion of the contingency item in the budget that we had discussed as being a tool that could be used to help offset or mitigate some of our workforce shortage challenges. We got a lot of feedback, had a ton of discussion on this topic, especially with member city staff. And while I think we all agree that our workforce shortage is pressing and it's something that we're going to have to address so that we can continue to deliver excellent and reliable service to our customers, it is apparent that the operations contingency is not the best vehicle for accomplishing that. Rather, in a memo I shared with this board on June 8th, we've outlined a process by which we would engage this board, our member city staff, and our contractors in developing multifaceted solutions to moving through the workforce shortage. To the extent that there is a budgetary impact that exceeds that which we're asking this board to prepare today, we would address that instead through mid-year reviews, perhaps on a per contract basis, so that we can ensure that within each contract, we're developing a comprehensive approach that is well suited to effectively and expeditiously help us allay that workforce shortage so that we can get back to providing reliable service to the customers. Jim Hilliard is here to provide an overview at a high level of the budget. I think we've been through it in great detail. Before I ask Jim to present, directors, may I answer any questions or concerns about the shift in direction with removing the contingency from the operating budget?
Any comments, discussion on that item?
I do.
Vice Mayor Fetzer.
So I just want to say I appreciate all the work that has been done because it's a long process. You start with the board, you go to Valley Metro staff, then you go to our staff and all member cities, and it's a long process to get to where we are today. So I really appreciate what has happened. I also appreciate the shift away from the operation contingency. I think it was in the best decision to do mid-year, and then from there we can make that determination. So I just want to say thank you for listening and hearing all the cities and all the staff and understanding the dialogue that went on to be able to get here. So thank you.
Thank you, Vice Mayor.
Any other comments? If not, we'll go with Mr. Hilliard.
Well, thank you, Mr. Chairman, members. I think, Jessica summed up the key changes that have occurred since our last meeting. And so if there are any questions that we can answer at this point on either of the agency's budgets, we'd be delighted to do that. Once any questions have been answered, I will hand it off to Tyler Olson, who will very quickly review with you the 5-year budget forecast. I think, as you know, we provide a 5-year forecast as a planning tool to cities and looking out toward transit needs and costs of the future. It doesn't have any impact on the budget that you're adopting today or provide any authority going forward. It's simply informational for cities. So if there are questions that I can answer on either of the two FY23 budgets, I'm delighted to do that. Otherwise, I will let Tyler share the 5-year.
Any questions, comments online? Nope. All right.
Thank you, sir.
Go ahead, Tyler.
Good afternoon, Chair Heredia, members of the board. As Jim mentioned, sharing the 5-year with this group today. We did share this with your city staff at Financial Working Group back in April, as well as AFS a couple of weeks ago. And it's really just for information, 24 through 27, using our best estimates that we have at the time. All right, so 5-year operation assumption, this is just RPTA. I'll go over that first and then VMR after. So on fixed route, we work with your member cities on a regular basis through Service Planning Working Group. We've incorporated the short range transit program changes as of February into our plan. On the demand service side, slight increases in trips over the 5-year period, 3% per year. On the fare revenue side, we've definitely seen positive growth as we've shared with this group and the rest of the committees. Returning to front door boarding has certainly increased our revenue over that period. And enhanced controls will come in the future with our fare collection system modernization project that we've talked about, recently updated you at the Tempe streetcar policy update, fare policy update. So that will further increase revenue as we move forward. Obviously, fare revenues are directly related to ridership. I do want to point out that we have included some slides in your packet for information. The AFS did ask for some pre-pandemic levels to kind of gauge our 5-year program again. So that's been included. Wasn't going to present on those today, but for fare revenue, for example, on the ridership side of things, pre-pandemic, we were close to 14 million annual rides for bus. We're around 6.8 million for FY23, but we do anticipate getting back to pre-pandemic levels by the end of our 5-year window. On the sources and uses, I do want to note we did make a slight update to this slide. Amounts by year have not changed in total. We just had a clerical error in a formula link with a couple of lines, so that will be corrected in the budget that is posted online. So new to RPTA, beginning in our current fiscal year that we're in right now, is our advertising program. This board had approved that earlier this fiscal year, so you can see that is the first time we've had this in our 5-year program, so we're excited about that, starting off at a moderate level and hoping to grow into that. Public Transportation Fund source, of course, using the official ADOT forecast over that period and continuing that out beyond Prop 400, assuming that the extension is approved. On the member city contributions, it's a little bit hard to see, but just as a reminder, we are back to the pre-pandemic levels of contributions. If you remember from the budget study session, the COVID relief money has been utilized fully this fiscal year, so that goes back to normal levels. On the expense side of things, we do have 2 contracts expiring. Fixed route in our East Valley expires at the end of FY23, so we'll have to rebid that contract. And then the West Valley, that'll expire at the end of FY24. So we have included, some speculative rates, but we really won't know what those are until we get RFPs and market rates back. Under the 5-year capital assumptions, our capital program primarily consists of fleet replacements and which are really dependent upon the regional replacement plan based on age and interval mileage. 106 million in bus replacements over the 5-year period. We are excited to include our first electric bus fleet. This purchase will occur in the 5-year period. We received a grant that will match, provide 87% of those costs. So very excited to include that for the first time. Facilities equipment is our second largest category this year at almost 26 million. I could say the largest part of that budget is the 16 million that we've invested into our regional fare collection system. Really the modernization project, City of Phoenix has procured that. We provide the local match for that through PTF. And we have also included the replacement of the fare collection, the fare boxes on board all the regional fleet, which this board approved earlier this fiscal year. And then taking a look at sources and uses based on those assumptions for capital, we've got 211 million on the capital side for FY23, and you can see over that program 791.8 million over the 5-year window. So as Jessica mentioned, this is our last stop this fiscal year to get this approved, and hopefully this has been good information. We appreciate all the great discussion from this board and, of course, your city staff. Over 100 questions together. So with that, the recommendation that we're seeking today is on the screen, and I'd be happy to answer any questions that you may have at this time.
Thank you, Tyler. Any questions, comments?
Mr. Chair, I do have a comment.
Go ahead, Councilwoman.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I just want to thank Jim and Tyler and the rest of the staff, Jessica, for the patience with the board and especially with AFS. But I think we're putting forth a really thoughtful budget this cycle, especially in a shifting economy, a shifting labor market. There's a lot of moving parts and pieces, and I think the extra effort and the extra patience that was given to and the attention to detail in this budget, I think will serve us well going forward. So thank you guys very much for your patience.
Thank you.
Councilor Aradama Savage.
Right, I feel like since it's my last meeting, I can just keep talking all I want. Nobody's gonna do anything about it, but I too just want to say thank you so much to Jim and Tyler. I mean, I feel like we really pushed you both really hard, and bringing Jessica on as the new CEO and kind of putting her feet right in the fire right away. I thought you all handled it really well. And also a big thank you to Councilmember Stipp for guiding us with AFS and really pushing us to do a deep dive and really make sure we understand the materials and that we were asking very thoughtful questions. And that doesn't happen without the support of our staff too. So I want to just give a shout out to the Tempe staff and all the city staff that continue to work really hard. And we all want the same thing. Sometimes we go about it a little bit differently, but it was really nice and very refreshing for you all to be able to take that feedback in, to really digest it, and then come back with some alternative suggestions. So I just want to say thank you for doing that. I think that has really turned the tides a lot in what I've seen in the past, and moving forward, I think it's going to be a really positive thing. And I just want to say thank you for all the teamwork and what went into being able to get to this point here today. Thank you, Chair.
Perfect.
Mr. Chairman?
Comments? Yes. Supervisor Sellers?
Yeah, I'm not sure you can really give a very thoughtful answer on this at this point, but how much concern is there for the significant rise in interest rates going forward for the budget?
Yeah, I mean, it's purely speculative at this point, but, we know that's obviously going to have effect of some kind on the economy, although there's challenges with the stock market right now. But, I really think it's just a wait and see, adjust accordingly as things change, as markets change. We've got a great budget team, financial planning team that keeps track of CPI, regular updates. And I think, maybe that would be part of a regular update with, say, financial working group, your city staff on, economic conditions, things like that. We always have time to update the budget as we see things change, trend through mid-year, and then, of course, the annual budget as well. We do share Prop 400 Public Transportation Fund collections with your city staff on a regular basis each month, how those are trending. So I wish I knew the future. Wish I could look into that crystal ball, but I just can't.
If I may, Chair. So some of the big concerns I think that are going to potentially impact us are, of course, the cost of labor, the cost of fuel, and other commodities. So we're following this very closely. It's going to continue to be an active conversation with this board and with AFS. One advantage I think that we do have as Valley Metro, especially Valley Metro Rail, we are not as indebted as many cities are with recent capital expansion like we have. And I attribute that to the tremendous funding stream that is provided by Proposition 400, but also that success that we've had at the federal level with providing typically 80% of our capital funding through capital investment grants. We haven't had to assume the kind of debt that a lot of cities do to accomplish their infrastructure projects. And especially now, we're very grateful for that.
Perfect. Any other comments? Hearing none, this item is presented for information. We'll take separate actions in each of the next board meetings for RPTA and VMR. So thank you, Tyler. Thank you, Jim. All right, we'll move on to item 6.
I'm sorry, Chair.
Is there
Tyler, do you need to do the VMR 5-year now, or do you want to do it at the VMR board meeting?
We can keep going.
If, the other.
Yeah, go ahead.
Give us 1 second while Stephanie. Yeah, Stephanie's going to cycle through the slides and get us to that. Go ahead, Stephanie. One more. Oh, nope. Apparently, we don't have the 5-year slides in my deck right this minute. They are in your packet that was sent out to everyone. Hold on 1 second. I'll just share them.
Do this. Tyler, I'm gonna give you my slides.
Sorry for the confusion. Okay, well, I think we need to find the slide presentation that was in the packet. Sorry, just a couple moments.
So for board members, I think it's on the VMR agenda under the budget topic. There is a presentation on the 5-year operating assumptions. There we go.
Okay, so Valley Metro Rail, 5-year proposed forecast. Again, 24 through 27 are just for information. We've talked about the 23. This same information was shared with city staff and the AFS as well. And again, we've included some additional information from the AFS request for 19. It's included in your packet. Won't present on it today for time. So 5-year operating assumptions. Well, we know that we have Tempe Streetcar that just kicked off in May, so super excited about that. 23 will be the first year of service, the first 12 months annualized. You can see there's some partial year new service coming on board, which I'll speak to in the expenses and sources. But Northwest Extension coming on halfway through FY24, and then South Central almost a year behind that. And on the fare revenue side, again, positive growth, returning to the full fare inspection. So with the improvements in the fare collection system that I mentioned, we will see some very positive impacts, particularly on the point of sale control over reduced fare, which we struggle with in today's regional system. The future system really corrects that. So looking forward to that. Ridership, similar to bus, really about half of what we were doing pre-pandemic. So we expect that to ramp up by the time we hit the end of our 5-year window, be back to pre-pandemic levels. Taking a look at sources and uses over the 5-year period. Member city contributions, you can see for 23 compared to 24, relatively low in 23, but 24, there's a couple things going on. Valley Metro Rail will not have any COVID relief money left in 24, so contributions for base service go back to pre-pandemic levels. The other part of that jump is Northwest Extension coming on board halfway through the year. So obviously, City of Phoenix will be contributing more for that. And then following that out to the right, you can see that it jumps again. Northwest is annualized then, so we'll have 12 months operations and then half a year of South Central Extension, which again is further analyzed in 26. So really the expenses on the same side of things on the operations and maintenance line are really timed around those extensions opening. Here's a look at the expenses and revenues for the capital projects in the 5-year plan. Streetcar has some closeout activities planned for FY23, so that'll wrap up this year. And then South Central and Northwest 2 really continue until those lines open and end up closing out in FY25. Still have some trailing costs for Gilbert Road Extension. That's really primarily due to the Siemens fleet vehicles, light rail vehicles that we purchased as part of that extension. With the pandemic, there's been some, delays in those deliveries. So we'll expect that to catch up. Another big project that we're excited about is the capital extension, which will take it light rail west down to the Capitol from here. You can see that ramping up as we move toward the end of the 5-year window. All right, so that brings me to the end of the presentation. The action is before you, and I'd be happy to answer any questions that you may have.
All right, any questions on the VMR budget? Any additional comments? All right, again, this is presented for information right now. We'll vote on these items in the upcoming meetings here. All right. We'll move on to item number 6 now. Travel expenditures and solicitations. This item is presented for information only. Any questions folks have? Hearing none, we'll move forward. Item number 7, report on current events or any future agenda items. All right, hearing none. And again, this is the item that I covered initially at the beginning of the meeting before we get to the next agenda item. Requests a recess of this joint meeting. During the recess, we'll convene the meeting of the RPTA board of directors, followed by the VMR board. So request a motion and a second to go into recess.
Move the joint board goes into recess.
Second.
All right. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any nays? Hearing none, we'll move on to our next meeting, which is our Valley Metro RPTA meeting. We'll start with item number 1 on the agenda, public comments. Folks have 3 minutes. Pat?
Mr. Crowley?
Go ahead, Blue.
Being that you agreed to the joint budget, I'm looking at the part of it that's in the rail, and it has operating. And one of the things that we all know is that PTF funds, Prop 400, cannot be used for rail operating, right? Just the same as I was informed about the circulators in your towns. But then when I look on page 5, and it says source of funds operating, PTF funds budgeted for 2023, $8 million. So if you're not able to use those funds, why has it got it in here for 8 mil? Another thing is you're getting that new security person for the bus, because whenever there have been incidences, there has been no communication, and they're saying assault at the bus stops. Well, what I see it as is a system getting ready to do trespassing, so that any of those homeless that are using our facilities, we're going to be going after them. And when I note that it's how much it says, we're paying for that he gets 900,000. Well, then when I go through the document in here and it goes for the, his cost, it shows 8,000, which we both know that when it's shown like that, that's not 8,000, that's 800,000. Because they're in thousands that you do the thing. So you're getting this new guy, we're paying him 100,000, and then you're gonna spend 700,000 for what? When you're doing what we got to do to get things back, like I said, we need to double the amount of buses that we've got already, and we need to be increasing the amount of time or decreasing the amount of time before them. That with what I understand MAG is doing, because MAG is the one who needs to do what, oh yeah, they'll tell you what you're going to get and how you're supposed to use it. Well, I don't need that to be happy. I need you guys to be the ones who develop the plan for the Prop 500. So when I see what is going on here, I'm going, well, why do you exist? If it's going to be MAG that dictates what is and isn't going to be happening, and that their dictation of the way we're going to be doing bus routes, and sorry for going a little bit over, is going to be demand. Well, demand should be seen by traffic patterns. If you've got 40,000 people going through an intersection every hour, that means that at every single one of those lights, there are 45 individuals in their single occupant vehicles.
Mr. Crowley, your time is up.
I understand that, but I'm finishing up and getting to the point on it. That you need to have done the system to where it's still functioning and getting better. And when it comes to the no bus book, it would be nice if you did the ability to find out from the system work for all the time that the bus does. But of course, you didn't do that.
Thank you. Pat, any other? All right. We'll move on to item number 2, the consent agenda. Consent agenda is presented for action. Any board members have any questions or comments? All right, hearing none, request a motion and a second to approve the consent agenda.
I'd like to make a motion for the consent agenda 2A and 2B.
Second.
All right, we got a motion and a second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any nays? Hearing none, ayes have it. Motion passes. We'll move on to item number 3. This is the Valley Metro RPTA fiscal year 2023 proposed operating capital budget and 5-year operating forecast and capital program. So we just heard the overview from Jim and staff here. Any questions or comments additionally on this item?
Mr. Chair, I'd like to make a motion that we approve the fiscal year 2023 proposed operating and capital budgets in the 5-year operating forecast and capital program. As
Second.
No, I don't.
We have a motion and a second. Move forward to a vote. All in favor, say aye.
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 Any nays?
I don't want to nay, I would just like to abstain.
Any abstention? Okay. Thank you. Looks like ayes have it. Motion passes. All right, we'll move on item number 4, fiscal year 2023 election of Valley Metro RPTA board officers and subcommittee positions. Any of the committee members have any questions? All right. I know we have something that came up in particular. I think this is RPTA Audit and Finance Subcommittee. There's a vacancy still. And so I would like to push it to maybe next month and maybe get some more letters of interest. And just remind folks that if you're interested, there's for RPTA member, there's a vacancy on the Audit and Finance Subcommittee. The AFS is a 5-member board subcommittee that has 3 RPTA members, 2 VMR members, and currently we have two open RPTA seats on AFS, one being
No, just one.
being filled, yeah, by already one, and then
Right, so Councilmember Clay Goodman is on the list, and then
On the
we have
list,
one
okay.
open position for the RPTA.
that's right. Okay.
Mr. Chair,
Yes.
I believe that's an East Valley position also. isn't it?
Yes, it would be a East Valley seat. And so we'll request
Just the perfect.
anyone interested, some contacts Pat or
Yes, yeah, that's fine.
Valley Metro staff, and we will then vote in the August, right?
Yes.
Or- Yes,
August.
perfect. All right. But this is, with that said, this is for action, so request a motion and a second. Do we remove that subcommittee and?
Nope, no, just vote, and then if there is an interest from a board member for that seat, we'll put it on the August agenda for
August.
another motion.
Okay,
We can
perfect.
proceed with this slate that's in front of you.
Perfect. All right. Request a motion and a second to approve the slate of board officers and subcommittee positions as presented to serve in fiscal year 2023. All right. Councilwoman Arredondo Savage moves. Second. We'll take a vote. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any nays? Hearing none, motion passes. So congratulations, Vice Mayor Pastor.
Yeah.
We'll move on to item number 5, report on current events and suggested future agenda items. Any reports or future agenda items? Hearing none. Next meeting is Thursday, August 18th. And again, we'll ask the RPTA members to stay on as we conduct our Valley Metro Rail agenda, and then we'll come back after that from the recess from our joint meeting to go into the next item, the last item on our joint meeting agenda. So I'll convene the Valley Metro Rail meeting. We'll start with item number 1, public comments. And folks have 3 minutes. Pat?
Mr. Crowley?
Mr. Crowley, you have 3 minutes.
You gave a consulting, 3 minutes, not 1. Thank you. You guys gave $30 million to a consulting firm that supposedly is planning for rail and the bus, because bus had to give part of that money too. And if that be the case, how come you're not being multimodal? Because if you people are planning for bus and rail, they're supposedly planning it to be multimodal. And when I look at that extension going out to the Capitol and then out to 79th, not multimodal. You know, and one, you've got a stop at 12th, where what routes go to 12th Street? Well, there's one at 15th and there's one at 7th. And the best way to make people feel like they want to use the bus at this time of year is have them walk 3/4 of a mile. When I hear the assumptions that you are doing from operating and such, and I've got both of them here, you said on the 5-year capital assumptions, the bus fleet is 106.2 million over those 5 years. Well, we know that the PTF funds alone over the next 5 years, because it's 140 now, I'll just do some quick math. 75? Well, I don't see 705 there. What I see is 100. So if you're getting 140 in and it's now 740, that the total amount of capital that you're going to be getting in from PTF, why is it that way? But then when I look over at the rail, Like I said, anytime there's any money there. And I note that in here on the operating, there's one that goes that PTF 800 or 8,000. Like I said, we all know that that means that it's 8 million. So how are they getting $8 million for operating? Because it's operating sources and use from PTF. Come on, rail. What is it? Because I need that $8 million for buses. I need that $8 million for better routing. I need that $8 million for the rural connectors. And I need you people to understand the way we wrote it, those rural connectors 10 years ago should have expanded out to Queen Creek, Fountain Hills, Tonopah, and not have eliminated Wickenburg, and that there was to be circulators within those communities so that it made it more functional for them. Have a pleasant.
Thank you, Mr. Crowley. We'll move on to item number 2 on the consent agenda. Consent agenda is presented for action. Ask the committee for any questions. And again, this is the Valley Metro Rail Board, so board members on the rail board here. Any questions? Hearing none, I request a motion in a second.
I move item 2A and 2B.
I'll second.
Second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any nays? Ayes have it. Motion passes. We'll move on to item number 3, fiscal year 2023 Valley Metro VMR operating capital budget and 5-year operating and capital forecast. Yeah, I'll ask the committee if they have any additional questions. Again, we just heard in our joint meeting this presentation and information. If none, no questions, request a motion and a second to approve this item.
I have one question,
Go ahead, Vice Mayor.
and it was Crowley's question regarding the 8 million. Can somebody answer that?
I want to confirm, Mr. Crowley, is this the subset of the planning grant award or the planning services contract?
Mr. Crowley had mentioned page 5, but
I don't think, I don't. Okay, Mr. Crowley, I see that. I'm going to ask after this meeting, I'm going to ask Mr. Olson to talk with you, and Taylor, we can point you to the specific line item that is PTF within the Valley Metro budget at 8 million. Yeah, Valley Metro Rail budget. Yeah, I'm going to ask Mr. Olson to address that outside of the meeting.
Is that okay, Vice Mayor?
Oh,
I just want it on the record.
oh, okay.
That's why, but if you want to, that's fine. You could always come back or do a memo saying.
Yeah. Let me see this real quick. Yeah, thank you.
Vice Mayor Pastor, I'm not Yeah, gotcha. Thank you. So, Vice Mayor Pastor, I believe what Mr. Crowley is referring to is the PTF program in the sources of funds for the operating budget. There's 8,000,085 in FY23. Those are used for pre-construction activities per FTA guidelines on, say, the capital extension project, other planning support items related to pre-capital construction activities. So really the planning design before it moves into the capital phase.
I think, Mr. Crowley, to answer your question, this is not used for operations. I want to be clear. It's not service operation.
That's correct.
Okay, so can we provide that clarity or change that piece? Because it's under operating and
Yeah, so I think perhaps just segmenting out and being clear which operating activities that it is.
Sure. Yeah, we can
Thank you.
certainly look into that. Yeah.
All right,
I would like to make a motion
I'd like a second.
second. the
for
motion is-
action number 3.
Yes. There's a motion and a second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any nays? Ayes have it, motion passes. We'll move on to item number 4, fiscal year 2023 election of Valley Metro Rail Board officers, subcommittee position. Those are as on the slide here. Any questions or comments? Request a motion in a second.
Okay, I move item number 4.
I'll second that.
Second that.
For my replacement.
I know we'll have some changes after we come from the break on this, on the VMR, since we're losing a member from the current board. So, right, so. All right, we have a motion and a second. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any nays? Ayes have it. Motion passes. Item number 5, report on current events. No current events. Next meeting is Thursday, August 18th, 2022. All right. And then we'll move on to reconvene the joint board meeting. I would ask for do we call for a motion, right? Request a motion and a second to come back to the joint board meeting, or just to each session. Okay. So we'll come back. We're coming back. So folks online here, coming back to the joint board meeting to cover the last item, our executive session. I request a motion and a second to enter into executive session.
I move it to enter executive session.
Vice Mayor Pastor, second, Councilwoman Arredondo Savage. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Nays? Ayes have it. We'll move on. We'll take, let's say, 7-minute break here. Come back to the board members.
Valley Metro board members that are on the WebEx, you can disconnect from this and use the confidential link that I emailed out to you, and we will join that meeting shortly. And this will conclude our YouTube stream also.
Thank you.